What's going on, everyone? So, Walker Kessler is on the trade market for the Utah Jazz. Now, Utah's not just trying to trade him for the sake of trading him or just for fun. Obviously, they want a return for Walker Kessler. He's a guy that they're only going to part with him if the package or the trade makes sense. But he's a guy that is very surprising that the Utah Jazz are looking to trade because he's been very good and has a lot of upside and potential. And he's only 22 years old, right? He's had games and moments and stretches where he looks like he could potentially be the next big center. I'm not saying, like Jokic or Giannis level, but like a real, like, oh, hey, this guy can be a big foundation piece for a team or an organization. You put the right pieces around him, he could really make some noise. And it's odd, too, because, yes, the Utah Jazz they went and drafted Kyle Filipowski out of Duke. But outside of that, it's like, who's their future center? Like, who's the center that they're planning on running and building around? Is it really Kyle? Okay, sure, but I don't know. It's a little odd to me that Walker Kessler is available, but he is dirt cheap contract-wise, right? Because he's still on that rookie contract. Walker Kessler's only making $3 million. So he's making $3 million, and then you have a club option in 2025, 2026, and then he becomes a restricted free agent. So he, as far as trading contracts-wise, pretty much every team in the league could trade for him, and there are several teams that have reached out and are trying to acquire Walker Kessler via trade, because again, he's a guy with plenty of upside, plenty of potential. He's 22 years old. Right? Now, he's not a guy that really stands out and is like averaging 20 and 10 right out the gate, but for the right team that is willing to kind of grow and develop him and allow him to slot in and be a key fixture, I think he's a guy that can be a real force for that team going forward. I mean, he's a real 7-footer at 7'1". He's got good size, good strength. You've seen him bang with the big boys. He's like 250. So he's not some like little small scrub guy. And he's a guy that, is averaging about 8-8, 9-8 his first 2 years with the Utah Jazz, which again doesn't stand out crazy, but he's playing 23 minutes a game. So he's not playing the 30 to 35 minutes like most guys do. He hasn't even started all the games, right? He started 22 games last year and then 40 the year before. So he's came off the bench a lot, and he's came off the bench heavily, but he's not really a three-point shooter. He's not a guy that's going to be, taking 5 threes a game or whatever as a big man. He's not Karl Anthony Towns out there, right? Basically a non-existent from three-point range, but he is excellent around the rim and can just go get a bucket. Again, bang with the big boys, be physical. He also can make the occasional play out of the post, which is good. And he looks like a guy that has shown that he can continue to grow an upside in that regard too, as a playmaker out of the post. We've seen him on some nice plays at the kick out, or like if the help defender comes, he just, can find the corner man. He's got his head on a swivel. So he's got a good kind of head on his shoulders in that regard. Averaged 2.4 blocks last year and this previous year, and as well as basically half a steal in both those years. I think, personally, San Antonio Spurs should go take a look at Walker Kessler, right? Because if you look at the Spurs roster, right, they basically have everything they need except for a long-term upside center, right? Like, so you have Victor Wembanyama, right? Obviously, he's the center, but with his ability to stretch the floor and his size and length, like the beauty of Victor is you can slot him at the 4 or the 5. And even Walker Kessler is like listed as a 4 or 5, but he's best at the 5. I just think that that's the luxury of Victor, is that you could go trade for a guy like a Walker Kessler, slot him alongside Victor Wembanyama, and let's go. Right? Like, I think that is something that makes a lot of sense for a team like the San Antonio Spurs. Because you got Stephon Castle, who's going to be the point guard of the future. Like, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to mold. That's why they got Chris Paul. Chris Paul can really work with Castle and grow and develop him and all that stuff. Great. Okay? Then you got Vassell as your 2 guard, right? And then beyond that, it's like, okay, well, how else, like, who are the long-term upside pieces, and how are you going to approach kind of this growth and development, right? You got Harrison Ingram, who I actually really like. I think he has a lot of upside and potential, but at 6'6", he's probably slotting in at the small forward position as the guy for now in the future. Again, they could end up playing, several guys at the 3 over the next year or two, but I think if you have him and Harrison Ingram actually does and is capable of being the guy that they can, or that they drafted him to be, then I think he'll end up being the slotted 3 for the foreseeable future. You have other guys, right? You do have. I also think most of those other guys are probably getting traded. I think at some, like, you see Lauri Markkanen. Now, if they go get like a Lauri Markkanen or something like that, then I do think that he'll slot at the 3. But if you get Lauri Markkanen, why not get Walker Kessler in the deal too, right? Why not try to work it out to get both of them and add them? And now you got your 3, 4, and 5 for the foreseeable future. I think that'd be great alongside Vassell and Stephon Castle. Now you're cooking, in my opinion. But you have the nice core and foundation, right? You have several nice pieces, right? Like Sohan has looked good so far in the offseason, and he's a guy that should continue to grow and develop. And they've tried to use him in a multitude of ways, right? Like last year, they tried the point forward with him stuff. But I think now you're really starting to see the carving of this roster, right? I think you have your core kind of glue pieces that you want to really build around, and then I think everyone else is kind of just going to be casualties or players that are ending up trading. And I think if you can get that piece now at like the center position, then I think that why not do that, right? Like you could, yeah, maybe there's somebody in the draft or something along the way, or if you want to keep Victor at the 5, that's fine. But I think to go with the size, right? You look at some of the other teams that you're trying to compete against, and they have just so much size, and size is still a big factor in today's league, right? So, like, yeah, you could go with Victor at the 5, and then have some 6'8" power forward or something that you want to run around with, right? But the question is like, how do you contend and compete with the Minnesotas and the Denvers and stuff, right? Do you really want Victor kind of banging with the big boys on a regular basis? Where I think, if you slide him to the 4, his ability, that doesn't mean he can't play at the rim. That doesn't mean at times he can't play at the 5. But to me, just having the luxury and adding a young, like if Walker Kessler was 26, then I'd be like, no. But him being 22 and having so much upside and potential, and him being a guy that I think would slot in very beautifully alongside Victor Wembanyama and kind of gives you 2 very different looks, right? You can go with Kessler and kind of go the bully ball, dump it down to him, kind of let him bang. You could slot him around, a Jeremy Zohan, and you could have him play alongside Victor Wembanyama. But you could also, hey, let's get a different look out there. Let's slide Victor over to the 5, and then, have Sohan or whoever kind of slot in at the 4 at times, and kind of have this nice rotation and structure. I look at Walker Kessler, and again, it all boils down to cost, right? How much would it cost for you to get the deal done? Are you going to have to give up 2 firsts or something like that? But if you can give up a reasonable package, it's not really the salary matching that's the problem. It's, what do they want? If they're trying to get 2 firsts or an unprotected first or something like that for him, I don't know if I'd do that, because there is still because he does have, again, games where he is absolutely brilliant. Then he has games where it's like, okay, we understand why he's being traded, right? Or why they're looking at being traded. But I think under the Spurs brand, culture, Greg Popovich's guidance, I think he could really mold into just that very versatile center. I think, again, he's shown the ability to make plays out of the post, especially with Pop's type of offense, with that free-flowing, ball-moving offense. I think to have a center that can make plays and pass, and then also with Victor Wembanyama, right, you could do some, like high screen action, or, have him kind of at the top of the key as like the initiator or the guy that runs it. I think that there's just a lot of possibilities with him. And if the price is right, like, I think the juice would be worth the squeeze. And if it doesn't work out, then, you trade him, or, release him before his new contract, because you'd still have basically 2 years before you got to really start to pay him. So kind of gives you 2 years of a feel of like, okay, is he worth it? Or is he kind of like, maybe we should go a different look. Maybe we should go elsewhere. If you draft that center or whatever, right? Maybe you're having Kessler as your backup, depending on what the price or the cost is. Or if you draft that kind of forward that you're like, oh man, this guy would be great alongside Victor at the 4, keep Victor at the 5. Then again, you could have Kessler as your backup at the 5. I think it's at least worth exploring if you're the Spurs. Right? It's not something I'm saying they have to do, right? But I think that it is something that is at least worth touching base, having that conversation, seeing like what can you get, what can you gain out of it, and see what his fit looks like. And if it works, I think you're in good shape. Now you basically have at least your core 5, or 4 or 5 to 6 guys. And then also, like, imagine what Chris Paul could do for him and stuff. I think that I think it's worth taking a look, right? But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you think that, yes, go get and take a shot at Walker Kessler? Do you think, no, stay away from Walker Kessler, just be patient, get another big man? Or do you think, no, you have to play Victor at the 5? Again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. It's me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.